This episode is brought to you by the Colfax Avenue Business Improvement District. Looking for fun that's a little less fancy and a lot more Colfax? Even during VRT construction, your favorite street is bringing the vibes, food, fun, and unforgettable events. Show your love by visiting Colfax businesses or joining this spring for the Krabby for Colfax Seafood Boil fundraiser, the first annual Apothecary Tour, Big Wigs Bar Crawl, and the Colfax Avenue Community Cleanup. Support the places that make Denver, Denver. I mean, I love the people of Colfax. My favorite guy in a bathrobe, wig, cigar. So look, maybe I'll see him there. I'd love to see him there. That's what makes Colfax Colfax. You don't know who you're going to see. Colfax is always open, always authentic, and always worth the trip. Get all the event details and sign up at colfaxav.com. That's colfaxav.com.
Today on CityCast Denver, it's Friday, and our regular host, Bree Davies, and I are looking back on a wild week in Denver. The Broncos have new owners, City Council passed a years-in-the-making affordable housing policy, and yes, those two things are connected. Our guest calls it the Walmart-ification of Denver. Stay tuned for why. Today is Friday, June 10th, 2022. I'm Paul Caroli, and this is CityCast Denver. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city that is slowly turning into a Walmart supercenter. Of course, I'm referring to the $4.6 billion sale of the Broncos to Walmart heir Rob Walton earlier this week.
Someone sent me a message yesterday and was like, "Oh, I hope this means they'll restock the candy shelves at Walmart on Smith Road." I didn't really know what that meant, but I was like, yeah, right on.
Sure.
I just made a connection in my mind. I did a story once about the Walmart in Lakeside, and I looked into the crime statistics. I learned that apparently Walmarts are like magnets for crime at night. So
inside? Like people just stealing stuff?
I think stealing stuff, but also outside the store. It gets kind of dicey, is from what I've heard from the head of the Lakeside police, who's also the mayor of Lakeside.
I know, it's like the
But
population of 8 people or whatever that live in Lakeside.
But let's talk about that around Mile High Stadium, huh? How about that? Huh?
My eyes are just rolling into the back of my head.
We got to introduce everybody. Bree has spoken. Our host, Bree, is here. And joining us today is a longtime friend of the show, Westward reporter, Connor McCormick Cavanaugh. Welcome, Connor.
Thanks for having me.
So we've got I swear this is going to get interesting topic in a few minutes, but we have to talk about affordable housing because Denver just took what people are calling a big step forward in this regard. City Council Monday night approved a new policy that requires any new residential development to include a certain percentage of income restricted units. It also increases something called the linkage fee, which other kinds of developers have to pay into the city's affordable housing fund, and really just changes the way that we're funding affordable housing. Connor, we wanted to have you on the show because this is your beat, housing. So just can you explain maybe in human terms what is this policy?
Yeah, so it's essentially setting in stone that developers have to contribute a certain percentage of new developments to affordable housing. So they have to have either affordable housing units in their new developments, or they have to pay a pretty hefty fee in lieu of doing that. And for smaller developments, they have to pay into what's known as the linkage fee, which we've had on the books for a couple of years now, but it's been pretty low. And so this significantly increases the linkage fee. And that fee goes into funding affordable housing projects too. So this is a pretty big step in the affordable housing direction for the city of Denver. Many would say it's long overdue. The city wasn't able to do it until recently because there was a 2000 Colorado Supreme Court decision called the Telluride decision, which essentially scared off any municipality in the state from requiring affordable housing in new developments. And so in 2021, the legislature essentially, they passed a bill that said, no, you all can do this.
And Denver did.
And Denver did, and Denver had been working on this policy in anticipation of that law change. They've been working on it since early 2020. So this is a project that has gotten a lot of input. A lot of minds have been working on it, and it's not a panacea. It's a market-based tool, so it's not going to create a ton of affordable housing. But as one council member put it, it's a steady but modest supply.
So it's a market-based tool that requires developers to pay more, and they're upset about it. Bree, can we talk about the controversy a little bit? Like, where do you see people coming down here? What's the battle line?
I mean, Councilwoman Candy Sabaka was the lone no vote on this, and her argument is that this is too little, too late. And that also this idea of relying on the market to fix our problem, it is not working. And I am inclined to agree with her that why. So I was thinking, this was keeping me up late at night, as housing does. Thinking about the market right now. Denver is one of the hottest housing markets in the country. If you're buying land, you're a housed developer, and you're buying land to build other housing, it's to make money. You're not building housing to house people.
Yeah, it's not a charity.
It's return on investment. So if you're going into this saying, I'm going to pay top dollar for land in Denver, I'm going to pay outrageous construction costs because materials are through the roof, I'm going to struggle finding labor, there's a labor shortage, I'm going to do all these things, I'm going to want to make money on it. So I kind of see what Candy's saying is like, how can we rely on that to solve a social problem? It doesn't make sense to me. So where that leaves us, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Connor, take that question. How can we rely on this to solve a social problem?
I think it definitely won't solve like a massive problem like this. And also, this is geared towards households that are like 60 to 70% of the area median income. And so a lot of the criticism from homeless advocates, housing rights advocates, they were saying 60 to 70%, yeah, like that's great, but we need it to be deeply affordable, much more affordable for households that are making a lot less than that. And it's not. And the city has been pretty upfront about that, saying like, yeah, this is not a tool geared towards that. We have to use other tools for that. But no, I mean, there are some valid complaints to be made about the AMI levels that are being addressed, and the fact that this is a tool that is totally limited. You don't solve a massive housing crisis with this tool. You have to do a lot more than that.
And maybe that's the frustration too, is that it's being touted as a big solution, when in reality it's a tool in the toolbox, as city council is prone to say. So it's one part of a solution, but it is not the solution. And it seems to me the folks that are critics of it would say it's just not enough.
Well, let me talk about the other side for a second, because I think that, we're talking about whether or not this is actually helpful. And I went back and I read a story that Joe Rubino wrote for the Denver Post about this policy when it was being debated, and he was doing a comparative look at Atlanta, which has put in place a very similar policy a few years ago, and has by many accounts been very successful. But the developers there are still not thrilled about it, because what it's meant for them, according to Chelsea Juras, the Atlanta Apartment Association's Advocacy and Public Relations Director, she says that the biggest takeaway for us is that the only way new residential developments within the inclusionary zoning overlay have been able to move forward since the adoption of the policy is with significant financial subsidy, most commonly through a tax abatement from the local development authority, which are not guaranteed. So it just does make it more expensive to impose these kinds of restrictions, and that money has to come from somewhere.
I think that's like the big argument in favor of why it's not as deeply affordable as some would want, is because it has to be like feasible in terms of the finances. And so I know the city of Denver did look at a bunch of different cities that have inclusionary zoning policies around the country, not in Colorado because there aren't others. And so it was kind of figuring out, okay, what's the sweet spot of what we can hit. And I mean, most developers that you talk to, they don't want to have this policy on the books. They believe that a free market with no limitations will solve the housing crisis, which I don't know.
Well,
That I don't know if that's been proven by the evidence, but they would argue that we don't have a fully free market because there are so many kind of restrictions and friction points. But no, there is something to be said about just making the economics work.
well, a true free market housing proponent would say, like, yes, in the aggregate, you would want it to be as easy as possible for developers to make their money building housing units, because the more the supply, the price will go down because it can meet the demand, and there would be less competition for individual units.
But the demand is so elusive, right? I mean, just talking about trying to be in the housing market right now, trying to compete to buy a house, for instance. People are getting outbid by cash offers, investment firms, out of country purchasers. I mean, how do we determine the market even?
I think that's it. That process. You need to offer more money to get the house you want.
But
Like,
what if you can't and you just want a house in the neighborhood that you grew up in?
I think
That's the problem,
maybe
I
we're in a
think.
bubble right now, honestly. with the
Oh,
housing
Connor,
market.
I've been hearing that for years, though, and I'm like, when is it going to pop and what is
We're
that going to
overdue.
look like?
We're overdue.
But
Yeah.
we've been overdue for a decade. You know what I mean? Like, what is it going to be? What's that thing going to be? I don't know. We've talked to an affordable housing developer, right? Kimball Krangle came on the show to explain. Some people are specifically in the business of building affordable housing, and even that is really difficult.
It's very
Even
difficult.
people that want to do it, cobbling together these different financial resources to make the numbers work is really hard. So, I mean, I have very little sympathy for developers, but I see where they're like, it's already hard and you want us to fund this, you want us to fix this social problem. Personally, yes, I do want you to fix that social problem. You wanted to be in how this is where you want to spend your money, then maybe you should be part of the solution. But it's a reality that we can't. It's capitalism. What are we going to, you
Yeah.
can't make people house people.
It's just one of those things, one of those parts of life like healthcare that's like, there's something about it that's not compatible with American corporate capitalism of the
Yes.
21st century.
For sure, yeah. No, like other countries have figured it out, but it's just like different political philosophies that are able to
And
allow them to figure it out.
And values too. 'Cause some people are just
Yeah.
like the whole idea of like merit. I have all of this money
Ugh.
because of my merit. Like, I don't know. We're getting too far away from this. Everyone has their own opinion on that stuff anyway. They don't need to
Debating the
hear.
American dream.
No one needs to hear us talk about that. There is one more thing on this topic I wanted to hit with you, Connor, though, because we had Adam Estroff on the show earlier this week. He's running for city council, and he just stepped down from being the president of YIMBY Denver. If you didn't hear that show, that's Yes in My Backyard, which is this whole new idea to counter the NIMBY idea. It's all about we need more housing, would be less restrictions, would be inclusionary zoning. What do you think about how this affordable housing policy fits into that YIMBY-NIMBY dichotomy, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I think YIMBY and NIMBY maybe are generalizations that sometimes miss out on nuances that are important for these debates.
Are you talking about MIMBYs? Maybe in my backyard?
Oh, no. I heard FIMBY the
What's
other day.
FIMBY?
Public housing in my backyard, like
PH.
PH, yeah, FIMBY. But no, I mean, I think there are certainly strong arguments to be made of, building more housing is that kind of makes it easier for everyone to get housing. But then you also have to think about gentrification and displacement concerns that have been happening in Denver for so long. Denver hasn't built enough housing. So I think that contributes to the gentrification displacement. But yeah, I mean, you kind of have to pair those two things together if you want to have a thoughtful policy. And sometimes people get so stuck in their corners that that nuance is lost in the debate.
Do you hear that? Twitter people. Sometimes nuance gets lost when you're too stuck in your corner.
Twitter's gotten, I mean,
That's why I'm not on it right now.
Twitter, yeah, I've noticed you haven't been.
Can't handle it.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I should get off it. Well, I have too much fun on it.
I know. It's like you have a great time on it, Connor, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I still read your tweets from time to time.
No, it's things are heating up in Denver politics. Twitter, like people are talking smack to each other, and like in some pretty nasty ways. And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'll like send it to a friend. I'll be like, wow, shots fired.
Yeah, it's feisty. It's feisty.
It's election season's heating up, so you got to start planting the seeds about who people should like and who people should hate.
Yeah, it's true. It's a popularity contest brought to you by Twitter.
Well, let's call that the end of round one. We'll be back after a short break for, honestly, more of the same conversation, but from a completely different angle.
This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. What does your mom want for Mother's Day? Well, my mom always just wants pictures of her kids, all together, with her grandkids. And this is a tall order because we don't all live in the same place. So I hate to spoil this for you, Brooke, because I know you're listening, but you're getting an Aura digital picture frame for Mother's Day, which is coming up soon, like May 11th. So don't forget. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter and featured in 495 gift guides last year. So next time you need to call your mom, you can also send her a new pic of you from that trip you've been telling her all about, right from your phone. I think the only picture my mom has of all of us together is at Casa Bonita. It's the only time maybe all of us were together. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day, too. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver mat frame. That's auraframes.com. Use promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we're back. Connor, this topic is all yours, and I'm just going to throw it at you. You wanted to talk about the Walmart-ification of Denver sports. What does that mean?
Rob Walton, he's a Walmart heir. He is buying the Broncos for a pretty penny, and he is related through marriage, through a cousin's marriage, to Stan Kroenke, who is involved with the ownership of the Nuggets, the Avs, the Rapids, the Mammoth, and then also the LA Rams and Arsenal in England. So he is a sports entrepreneur for sure. But so that's now 5 sports teams that are connected to Walmart.
Money.
And it's pretty hilarious.
So is that a problem?
I mean, with sports ownership, you have to think about it you kind of have to set your values aside a bit. You want a really rich person owning your team so that they can pay for really good players and really good staffers so that your team can succeed. That's probably the biggest criticism of the Rockies, which is the lone remaining of the kind of big 4 that's not connected to Walmart, that they don't spend enough money in a league that doesn't have a salary cap on a good team. And that's why you see the quality. I mean, the team is terrible this year, and it's because they don't pay enough for good players. So it's good for the Broncos in that sense. I mean, the Bolin family, Pat Bolin was a great owner because he really cared about his team. He wanted to win. It wasn't just a commodity for him. Some owners view teams as commodities, and some actually want to win. Some, it's both. But for him, he really wanted to win. But as he started to suffer from some cognitive difficulties, and when it was a trust that started to control the team, and so it was no longer Pat Bolin. And then there was kind of a fight between his children over who would own the team. Things got really nasty. And so it's a good thing that the Broncos have moved on from that situation. Now, we'll see. Is this the big question? Is what's going to happen with the stadium?
Yeah, Bree, do you want to take that one?
Do I?
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, they say that they need a new stadium. This was what the president of the Broncos, Joe Ellis, said on Monday.
Find me something else in Denver that's 21 years old that needs work. I mean, give me a break. There are so many things in this city that could use funding. that would improve our city for the better, that would improve morale the way that sports does, like sidewalks. I mean, I know we can't just, I've gotten this criticism before, we can't just shift money wherever we like, from DIA to this or that. But is this really what we are talking about in 2022?
Mm-hmm.
A 21-year-old stadium needing to either be totally remodeled or demolished and moved? Oh my God. This is like utter insanity to me, and it bums me out for Denver. We really don't care about people.
It puts the fire that happened a couple months ago at the stadium in a different light.
It sure does.
Maybe trying to cash in on insurance money before you knock it down.
Right?
No,
boy, you are more
'Cause,
conspiracy-minded than I thought.
Well, that's a tale as old as time in a city. If you don't want something to be around anymore, it's causing you problems, just light it
burn
on
down your
fire.
bar.
You two are now talking about insurance fraud and Mile High Stadium.
No, I like to traffic in conspiracy theories, even if I don't believe in them, just because I think they're hilarious. But no, but there's no good kind of utilitarian reason to knock down a stadium that's 21 years old and rebuild it. It's totally unnecessary in that sense. The Broncos can still play in the stadium. Fans will still pack it out. Yeah, maybe it's not as great as like SoFi Stadium in California, but it's still a solid stadium. But a new sports owner, they think about a new stadium from, I can make more money, it adds to my prestige, and I can attract really amazing events.
Mm-hmm.
Which Mile High Stadium is getting to that point where maybe they're not going to be as competitive for attracting really great events. So for Rob Walton, I could see it making 100% sense. Now, the two big questions after that is, if you are going to want to build a new stadium, where do you put it and how do you finance it? Because in 1998, voters approved public financing for the Broncos Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos kind of implied that the team might move to Houston or might move to LA if they didn't get this vote through.
Ugh, it's such a dirty game.
It's a dirty game, and it was one of the most
Nasty.
well put together lobbying efforts in Colorado history. And so voters in what was then the 6 metro counties, because Broomfield wasn't a county at that time, they approved it. So if you're going to have public financing, you're going to have to do something similar. It was 75% of the money for that stadium was paid for with sales tax dollars.
And of course, the crown jewel of that lobbying effort, as you pointed out last night on your aforementioned Twitter profile, was the friggin' Super Bowl victory, right?
Massive, yeah. So, I mean, the Broncos, a great team for years, but before 1998 had lost Super Bowls, and then finally they won the Super Bowl in 98. Fans, it ended years of frustration for them, and so that was huge. If they had lost that Super Bowl, who knows if that referendum would have passed, because fans would have been like, I mean, this team is just cursed. Like, maybe we don't need to help finance a new stadium for them.
Which kind of brings us back to the quality of the team on the field this year, because they got this new coach, Nathaniel Hackett. They got this new quarterback who everybody's excited about, Russell Wilson. Like, if Walton wants to make the fans happy and make people like want to maybe vote for a tax increase or a fee, whatever we might have to call it.
It would be a tax increase.
A tax increase. Then he would be shelling out some cash to bring some supporting cast around those new stars, right? So if he wants to move the stadium, maybe he wouldn't be as inclined to invest in the team. You see what I'm saying? It's like kind of like conflicting incentives depending on what he wants for his portfolio in Denver, his real estate portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, I think the staff there for the Broncos has done a great job of putting together a really competitive team that I think has a shot to win the Super Bowl. So I think there's good odds that the team is going to do well, and that if there were to be a referendum would kind of lead in nicely to, hey, we're really good again. Shouldn't we have a really nice stadium like the one that Stan Kroenke built in LA, in Englewood?
For the team he wrenched from the people of St. Louis.
Yes, which is terrible. And I feel bad for the people of St. Louis in that regard. What Stan Kroenke did well is that he financed that stadium himself, didn't ask the public for any money. So maybe that's the model that Rob Walton could follow. And then it gets into, where do you do it? Do you do it kind of in the ball arena area? Do you do it in the DIA area, which would be super trippy? So those are going to be really interesting questions to follow.
Well, that kind of brings us back to the neighborhood where Mile High is now. And Bree, this was, when we first talked about this was your response. Sun Valley is so linked to this question of what to do with the stadium. What do you think about Sun Valley in this conversation?
Poor Sun Valley. It just gets beaten up and thrown around, ignored, cut off from the rest of the city. It has never been treated respectfully or as a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's treated as an extension of a parking lot of a stadium at this point. Mm-hmm. And even the new developments that they tout over there, so the majority of Sun Valley's housing, like 90% of it, is public housing or privately owned affordable housing. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting in that respect. But I don't know. I just feel for the people of Sun Valley. There's this whole stadium district proposal. Like, here's this shiny new neighborhood we're going to build. That's actually not for you. It's for other people that aren't here yet. Right. But I wonder how that fits into this idea of like what's going to happen with the stadium. Was that the plan all along? Was like, well, we're making this stadium district, but we're actually planning on it not being here. I don't know. It's very suspect to me, but I don't know. I just wish Sun Valley got a more fair shot at what it would want for itself.
Well, I'm just thinking back to 2019 when the stadium district master plan was passed by Denver City Council. I don't recall anyone talking about a new stadium being on the table. Either. It was all about
developing
this area. Lot. These parking lots are a huge waste of space, and let's activate this area. Let's build housing. Let's build stores. Let's build a vibrant kind of additional neighborhood. And so I totally agree. I mean, Sun Valley is kind of could be getting screwed over, and they've been screwed over for a long time. God. And they're just kind of getting yanked around. I mean, there's cool stuff happening in Sun Valley right now. Like, I don't know if you went to the night market that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I did. Paul actually went.
I did.
It was so great. And so like that is what could be on the horizon. But then what happens if you move the stadium? Then like what happens to this whole master plan that you came up with?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Is that just going to then suck all the finances out of there to begin with? Though I'm questioning whether that master plan really truly includes the people of Sun Valley that are there now or the people they want to attract later. I don't know. I also just have this, it's just so gross to me to think about this rich guy looking down, thinking, well, I have a couple billion to buy this sports team, and then maybe I want to do this to this neighborhood that I've never been in and have no actual connection to. And all of you will get wrapped up in how you feel about the team, and then I'm going to tax you to get you to pay for it. It's so yucky to me that's how. And this is not by any means, this is not a Denver problem. It's
a sports problem.
It's a sports problem.
Yucky.
It's an American problem. It's how we do things. And there are cases all over the country over the last 50, 75 years where the development of a stadium has either totally decimated a community of color or pulled it out of a community and put it into another community. I mean, it's just like, it's weird the way that it intersects with planning and our futures and what our city looks like and how people actually can afford or not afford to be places. I mean, it's so much more complicated than should we pass a tax to pay for our new stadium.
Well, I think we should probably wrap it up, but we've got one more short thing here. We've been talking about housing in different ways the whole time today, and we want to give a shout out to a Denverite of the week. Our Denverite of the week is John Parvensky, who is retiring from his job running the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. He did so for 36 years in the 80s. He started with a group of only 6 staffers, and now there are hundreds of people working for this organization tackling this issue. Connor, do you know John?
Yeah, I've spoken with him a fair amount. When he started in the mid-'80s, they had a budget of $100,000, and now they have a budget of $100 million. Wow. So that's pretty incredible growth. But, I mean, this is the preeminent housing and homelessness organization in Colorado, and one of the most kind of reputable ones in the country. They work on homelessness resolution. They work on permanent supportive housing. They work on, they have a healthcare center. So this is like a really all-encompassing organization that does a lot of important work. And it's pretty incredible that John has been kind of leading the ship this whole time. And he has like a really incredible career to look back on. I think he has some regrets. Like he wishes that the city and state had done better on this issue and probably if they had gotten more ahead of it in past years, it wouldn't be such an issue now. But I guess hindsight is 2020, and it was tougher to convince people to fund these solving these issues years ago. But it's a pretty incredible career.
I mean, it's an admirable job. It's hard to do that for 36 years. I mean, I can't imagine the day in and day out of dealing with this crisis on a interpersonal neighborhood level all the way up to a policy level. So, I mean, good for him. Go enjoy retirement.
Take a vacation, John.
Take a vacation.
He's going to travel, and then he said he wants to like get back into work somehow.
Oh, boy.
Which, some people, they just have that itch.
Yeah. They just can't not.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up for today. Bree, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Paul.
Connor, always a pleasure.
Go Avs.
Hell yeah. Go Avs. Stanley Cup. This is the year. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were me, Paul Caroli, and Lizzie Goldsmith. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at CityCast Denver. Tell a friend about us the next time you see him. You can sign up for that daily newsletter I mentioned and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. Connor, we talked about your Twitter account quite a bit. Do you want to say how people can find you on there? What's the handle?
It's Connor, like Conor, Michael, spelled Michael, 28. 28's an homage to Curtis Martin, my favorite Jets player of all time.
Okay, we might cut that.
I always wonder the numericals.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with anything else.
It's not your boomer email address?
It's not my boomer. No, I wasn't born in 1928.